Testing.
Okay, is everyone ready? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Virginia City Council Chambers. This is a regularly scheduled Committee of the Whole meeting working session. We'll call this meeting to order. Today's date is Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. The time is 9 a.m. We have a very full agenda today. We have some meeting obligations with the I-River and down the road, so we're going to try to get through this as efficiently and effectively as possible. And so we'll turn the agenda items over to our City Administrator, Britzy Bennett. But before I do that, those of you who are presenting today, other than our contractor personnel, that we'll try to be limiting to your presentation to 5 minutes and then move on. So we are welcome to speak on any subject you have under scheduled appearances, and then we'll move on from there. So we'll turn our meeting over to our City Administrator, Britzy Bennett. Britt, and good morning to everybody in the audience today. Thank you.
Morning. The first item on the agenda is Chris Palazzari to discuss the tree removal in the city.
Okay, please come forward and turn the light on to green for the microphone, please. And then please state your name for the record and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Chris Palazzari, and I've been a resident of Virginia most of my 54 years.
I have noticed that entire blocks of our boulevard trees have been being removed in the last few years. I recently saw that the entire 800 block of 5th Street South Boulevard trees were taken down. Then the city appeared on my block. I headed outside to gain information, was told that one tree was being removed due to leaning toward the street where the grader was worrying about hitting it. They told me that the homeowner in front of the boulevard was on board. This was new, as last time I went out to ask, the city workers had no idea why that particular tree was coming down. I asked who oversaw this and was told Jim Rosvet. I called Jim. We had a conversation which included all of his reasons why these trees needed to come down and how there was support from every single homeowner on 5th Street and the one on my block. He told me that there was no replanting plans. I asked who else I could speak to regarding all the boulevard trees being cut down, and he directed me here to the city council. I also find it important to mention that Jim seems quite worried that a big storm could take all of our trees down. He also mentioned the damage to sewers, which I thought were mostly located in homeowners' backyards and then towards our alleys. So I was wondering, in terms of how many residents have had problems with sewers. He said that most of our boulevard trees are aging out, but had no positive news about any replanting plans. He also told me multiple times that this is what the homeowners want. I was able to find in the current ordinance any reference to homeowner consent to public tree removal. I headed to social media and found some support. I also heard a lot of negativity regarding sewers, dead trees, sidewalks, and that the people in charge best know what they are doing. If the people in charge, which seems to me to be one person, are going to recommend the trees come down, why wouldn't a resident agree? It seems that the Art Tree Board is not part of any of the decision-making. I found and read our Chapter 13 regulating tree shrub planting and maintenance online, which seems to be the city's ordinance from 1993. I reached out to Marlise, asking if she could come to this meeting with me because I know that she is a socially engaged member of the community. She is someone that I've never met and did not know that she was on the Parks Rec Board, which is our tree board. She was able to give me some background, which included that a draft was submitted to this council for an updated ordinance policy. Much time and effort seemed to go into this, but it seems that the city is not going to adopt it. The current ordinance seems to agree that policy should come from the board, but it does not seem that the tree board has any say in any of it. This seems to be a violation of your city ordinance. What do you think? I guess my main proposition would be that the city has a responsibility, according to city ordinance, to replant trees. This council seems to be advised currently by one person, Jim, when the city has an ordinance that includes planning from the tree board. I beg you to start engaging with your tree board so that future generations of the city have the same benefits all of us have had from the beautiful public trees. So is that correct, that 1993 is about the last ordinance for the trees? Yeah. So the intent and purpose section says regulating and planting and maintenance. Duties and responsibilities: study, investigate, counsel, develop, and administer a plan for care, preservation, pruning, planting, replanting. Those are, and then, it shall be unlawful for any person to remove, alter, or destroy any street tree or park tree without the prior authorization of the city council or the city's tree board. So obviously, I've never done anything like this before. I'm very nervous. And I don't know if, the city council voted to make Jim kind of in charge and the person responsible for making these decisions solely. So I just want to come speak up today because I have for years been watching the trees come down and keep waiting for someone to do something, and nobody is. And I might not be the best person to present this, but I just feel like I have to try because no one else is.
Well, thank you.
And if Marlise could say something? Or no?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, but before, thank you for that. There's a lot of information. We'll send you some documentation, a plan moving forward, so you understand that this is a work in progress. This can't be done in a couple of minutes or 1 week or 1 month or 6 months. There's a program that's developed, a pre-planting program. All those kind of things are coming to fruition, but the trees that are being removed are removed for a reason. And so we'll make sure that we disseminate that to you in the form of a correspondence, so to help answer some of your questions you had today. Marlise?
I'm Marlise Riffle. Hello, councilors and mayor. I'm on the Park and Rec Commission. We did propose a plan into the future, but that has not been approved by the city council. But I think the issue here is we have a PR problem. People are really angry at the city, and they're seeing devastation on 15th Street North, on 5th Street, and they're saying, what the heck is going on? And they're finding out that there's no plan for replanting, and that makes people very sad. And I would hope that you would work with the tree board to do some more positive, preventive public relations with people about what's happening to their city so that they trust you and so that they trust us because they believe we're in charge and we're not. I'm saying we got work to do here. We don't want people to hate the city. You know, that's not what we want. We're a little town here. So I encourage you to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councilor
Shut this
Johnson?
off?
I'm sorry?
Should I shut this off?
I'm sorry?
Microphone? Should I shut this off?
If you would, please, thank you very much. Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you both for coming in. And I would have to agree with Marlise that there's definitely a lack of some public-facing stuff. However, it is also challenging when the general public doesn't want to hear the answers we have, that they want answers they want. Jim is not the person who makes these unilateral decisions. Him and Brian, Parks and Rec Director, have regular meetings to discuss these things. We just got an email. We got a couple of them this week. A lot of those trees have outlived their useful life and they're hollow inside. And they are just waiting. Jim's not off when he says we're the right storm and we're going to have a street full of broken trees and broken cars. So I've been following your posts on Facebook on the alerting the citizens, and I think that it's important to note that there are a lot of citizens who are in favor of this because they understand of the danger it poses. On a windy day like yesterday, any number of branches could have fallen and hit somebody. I am not a tree hater. I'm kind of getting that feeling that I don't care and I'm not doing anything. That is not true. We have taken the multi-page recommendation from the tree board and we are looking at our current ordinances and we're making them fit together. One of the things that can't happen based on us is a group of citizens does not get to decide what the city does other than voting for elected officials. The only board that is autonomous is the Public Utilities Board, and that's by charter. All the other advisory committees we have, Tree Board, Parks and Rec, Human Rights Committee, all of them are advisory. You propose to us, and then we decide how to move forward. So to say there's no plan, to say one person's in charge, all of those are inaccurate statements. We're working on a plan. We bought hundreds of trees last year, Britt, for planting this year. If you go to the greenhouse, and I can take you there, I can show you where the Friends of the Greenhouse are currently cultivating trees outside to be planted this spring. There was just some discussion, when we take trees down, people have the ability to get a tree from the city to plant in their yard, not in the boulevard, in their yard. And those arrangements are made with Brian Silber. They were at the budget meeting this morning, there was a discussion about the appropriate trees for the appropriate climate that aren't going to go down. And we'll be ordering those. So you're absolutely right. We need to do a better job of communicating their options. But I also want to make sure that people understand that we're not doing nothing. We are trying to be proactive. That's one of the things I've been promoting from sitting in this desk for a long time, is if we take a tree down, we should be putting a couple up. We need to be planting trees around Bailey's Lake. That's going to happen this summer. Those trees have already been ordered. They're already done. So, and I would ask you, since you're kind of by default leading this, to disseminate that information as well to the people that are following you and that have signed your petition, that it's not an all or none thing now, that we really are trying to work on this. And I'd be happy to discuss with you more after the meeting or some other time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor Johnson. So thanks for coming in. We'll look for the next. Counselor Motley?
I just want to thank you, Chris and Marlies, for coming in. I am on the Parks and Rec, on the liaison. So I have heard a lot about the trees and the angst of the tree board. And so I understand the frustration. We had a great presentation last Wednesday or Tuesday at the Parks and Rec Commission meeting. Greg Gilness from the Virginia Community Foundation came and gave an excellent presentation. He is who was in charge of getting the fountain built in Alcott Park. He knows how to fundraise, and he is offering the support of the Virginia Community Foundation. Correct me if I'm wrong in anything I say, Councilor Beyondich, as you're also a part of the Virginia Community Foundation. But they're hearing the angst of taxpayers about the trees being taken down and not seeing a more positive planting going on as these big trees are coming down. But he's offering the support of the Virginia Community Foundation to have a volunteer in the city of Virginia spearhead fundraising, and they will help with it. And he's a wealth of information. Look at what a wonderful job he did with fundraising for the fountain. So I hope there's somebody in the city of Virginia that is willing to sacrifice their time, because it is a sacrifice to try to make things better. Your time is very valuable and important. So I'm hoping that somebody is watching this council meeting and feels very strongly about the trees can spearhead some type of campaign to get donations going to work on replanting trees faster and quicker to see a more positive impact in our community. And I guess that's all I have for right now, but I understand your angst, and I'll apologize that you don't think we are doing enough. So hopefully there is somebody that can spearhead a campaign to fundraise and get big, beautiful trees in instead of little ones, big ones, so they grow quicker. So, all right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor Motley. Okay, thank you very much for coming. Counselor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. One last thing, that there's a very limited time that we can cut trees based on the DNR, and so that's one of the reasons it looks like we're taking down whole blocks at a time, because we are based on other animals and hibernation and that kind of stuff. So I think that's the other part that's important to note, is that happens during a very small window, and then we have the whole rest of the year to figure out planting. So those are all things, because it does. When we took down trees around the lake, we had a lot of pushback from that. But now you can walk around the lake, it's more natural. A lot of those things were invasive species. So it's a big picture. But again, thank you both for coming in and appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. Next item, please.
Next item on the agenda is Mr. Matt Reed from SEH discussing approval of the professional services agreement for the I&I planning study, phase 2.
Morning, Matt.
Good morning. Try to frame this, because this is actually phase 2 of a grant that we've got. So we got a grant a couple of years ago for phase 1, and the whole purpose of the grant was to start looking at the city's sanitary sewer system. We've actually also got similar grants parallel that we're working on that'll be coming to the council shortly on the storm sewer side of things. So this one is phase 1 of the sanitary sewer. We put flow meters in, trying to identify the primary areas of infiltration and inflow into the sanitary sewer system, which then works on reducing capacity of the treatment plant, those kinds of things you've all heard before. What we're going to do now is take it to the next step. Now we've identified some of these areas. This is phase 2. We got another grant from the MPCA to do some additional testing on the private side of things. So we'll be looking at smoke testing, which allows us to see if there's any unwarranted or undesired connections to the system, if there's leaks in manholes, things like that. So we're going to take it to phase 2. And when people come forward and ask, how do we decide what we're doing when we're doing these projects? We've heard these questions at public hearings. And up until now, we've been going on experience, on what Public Works has seen, what other people have seen. And that's very legitimate. But now, in addition to their experience, we're able to look at a few other things to try to pinpoint and better prioritize what's going on in the city when we're doing infrastructure projects. This is part of that. So by identifying high areas of infiltration and inflow, that might help us prioritize what infrastructure needs to be replaced first. So, what this grant is for the next phase of, or this contract, I mean, is for us to do the next phase of that. 58,500 of it, I believe, is covered by the MPCA grant. And the additional 6,500 or whatever that is the city's share. So, I can answer any questions you might have on that, or whatever you'd like me to explain further, I could certainly do that.
Well, thank you, Matt. Questions, comments?
I will move the professional service agreement for the Phase 2.
Councilor Johnson moves to approve the professional service agreement for the I&I planning study Phase 2 with Matt Reed and SCH. Is there support? By Councilor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Item number 3 is Mr. Bob Voss from Kennedy and Graven. He's not available till after 9:30, so we're going to jump to Sean Lewis from Carl Sanderson to give an update on the Public Safety Center.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Lewis, thanks for coming once again to give us an update. And of course, we have John McNamara from Wold Architects also in the audience. Took that big trip up in this nasty weather to help with the presentation. Welcome to our meeting once again. Sean, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, councilors, and staff. Always a pleasure to be here. Bear with me one moment while I set up my PowerPoint here. This morning we have a short and sweet update, and also have some updates and good news on the solar system. Have a change order request to recommend approval for that, so we can proceed with procuring all of the equipment and solar panels and things. Also have a handful of some smaller coordination change order requests for some added value things that came up from a few different sources. Go. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. On the screen should be PowerPoint. So first, and maybe most importantly, the project is on schedule and within budget. So we're in good shape there, and everything's coming together very nicely. So I am pleased to report a few things that are really fun to see. One of them, acoustical ceilings. This is the grid system for acoustical ceilings. Starting, this would be the dorm on the far southwest corner, second level on the fire station side. So I point this out because you can start seeing finishes going into the building. This is also another real important milestone in any big project this size and complexity, and it's fun to see that starting to happen. Tile continues, ceramic tile in the locker rooms, restrooms, and showers. Also a really good indicator of the project moving along and starting to work into finishes. And also happy to report casework, also known as cabinets and countertops and things of that nature. Full-size tall cabinets and things that will be going in the dorms and several other spaces, the kitchen. Some of that's started to arrive. This is part of one of 3 deliveries that we'll have coming incrementally or sequentially over the next few weeks. So some of that casework is scheduled to start being installed in the next few days, actually. So also a really great milestone, and exciting to report that too. Okay, so I wanted to reserve most of the time this morning for talking about the solar, to make sure if there are any questions at all, I can address those. And again, John's here with me as well, so if anything comes up, we're happy to address that. I would like to start first with an overall budget update. Again, we're within budget, so we're in good shape on the budget at this point. As we've been doing when we talk about change order requests, there's a few second delay on the screen. I have a change order contingency log up on the screen here. Again, I did a little different than I have in the past. The top one there was when we recommended approval and the city council approved the design of the solar to proceed. That was that $15,000 one there. So that's underway, and design is 99.9% ready to go. That's why we're here this morning to recommend approval of the system so we can procure equipment. And you can see the other changes are the ones that were approved a month ago or even 6 weeks ago. And then the pending change order request this morning for solar panels, and then the other three I'll get into a little more in a moment here. The important numbers I wanted to point out are near the bottom. For the owner's contingency remaining fund, we still have about $700,000 left. And that will be what the bottom three we'll be talking about this morning will come out of. And then we've also got $67,685 set aside for some of the contaminated soils we're aware of on the southwest corner of the site. That'll come up later, just pointing that out because it's on the screen. And then we also have its own budget line item for solar of the $955,905.15. So the important thing I wanted to point out before we move into talking specifically about solar is that we have money allocated specifically for the solar that we'll be talking about today. So today is really formality of going through approving where we're at with solar, moving forward, and then basically authorizing and recommending approval a change order to move that into Kraus Anderson's contract so we can start working with Archkey, who is our subcontractor, local subcontractor, working on this, and then we can get equipment and things ordered.
Question, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
First, Councilor Johnson, and then.
What was the original solar array budget, the total overall for that? What did we set aside?
Well, original, it depends on which time of the timeline.
Well, I know we didn't set aside exactly 955,900, and that's what the previous slide said, that's what the budget was. I would like to know what was our rough estimate as we were moving forward with the project?
Well, the latest when we started moving closer into solar was about $1 million.
Okay.
Early, yeah, you're welcome.
That's what I needed.
The number kind of fluctuated a little bit, but basically we had about $1 million as we moved into it for the past few months we were anticipating.
Okay, and that's what I was looking for, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Question I have, and then we'll move to other councilors, just some clarity. So, under the state law with respect to the bonding money that we received, there's certain B3 requirements, which is considered as a solar issue. So, as we move forward with this project, I know that B3 compliance was at 60%, then it was at 70%. Are we now at 80% B3 compliant?
85, sir.
85% now B3 compliant. So the reason that we have this significant amount of money, and we plan for that, for the $955,000, is the reason that we can't put all the solar on the roof is because of the B3 compliant of 85%, so that required the ground array as well. So that's why the cost is so significant moving forward. And my second question would be, so if Archkey is working on this, who is going to be the provider of the solar panels? That's for us to decide?
No, we have that provided. Kraus Anderson and Archkey have those all provided and covered, and they're in your packet. I forgot to mention that. In the packet is all of that information. And we have Canadian Solar Panel, it's called. That's the plan right now for this, all of everything we were talking about this morning.
So the purchase of these solar panels, because you have it as separate line item budget, I just want to, for some clarity purposes, the reason it's in that line item, so is it something that the city is purchasing separately as a result in order to reap the benefits of the tax credits associated with this? Is that correct or not? That is correct. That's all I have. Thank you. Councilor Motley.
So I'm just segueing here. This has nothing to do with the price per se. I know we were forced to do this in order to get the money. Just random thought about solar panels. The life expectancy of a solar panel is 15 to 20 years. Is that correct?
I believe so. I am not going to pretend to be a solar expert, but I believe you're correct.
Okay. So then this is segueing, so I apologize if you don't have the information. This is me thinking as we're talking.
Go ahead.
What happens when it fails and we're still paying off the building 20 years later? Are we still forced to provide solar panels?
It depends at what point it fails, because there are some extended warranties with the system, 15 to 20 years, then that will probably be on the city to have to replace anything that fails.
Will we be forced to have to replace them?
Oh,
because
forced
we'll already
as far
have
as like the B3 requirements, is that what you're
Right.
asking, Counselor?
I'm sure it'll just go up
Great
in
question.
15 to 20
That one
years.
stumped me. I'll have to find out and get back to you on that.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Sorry.
No,
just random
that's an
thinking, so
excellent question. We will find out and give an answer back to you on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course,
Thank you, Mayor.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think some of the preliminary conversations with respect to that was the fact that in order to build a facility, we have to be B3 compliant.
Yes,
to build
correct.
it,
Yeah.
because you're using state money for that.
Yeah.
Once it's completed, and once we move down the road, if alternative energy sources are available, we should be able to use a different method of providing that. But if you could get that answer for all of us, for some finality purposes, so we can plan for 20 years down the road. Mr. McNamara.
I can probably clarify a little bit. The state doesn't mandate the way that you get to the energy savings for the building. We did explore geothermal, if the council remembers, way early in the project, but because of where the bedrock is, we weren't able to do geothermal on site. So that kind of forced us into the position of having to do as much solar as we are. So this is a really big array, and the reason for it is we need to get to a certain energy performance level, which is that 85% better than code that was referenced. And it would take a little bit of research, and we can certainly get back to you on that, but I believe because it's got state bonding money to it, there would be a requirement that you meet those energy goals throughout the course of that bonding request, the financing part of that bond. And so I can't exactly tell you what that looks like, but the mayor is correct. If there's an alternative way to still continue to maintain that energy performance of the building, the state doesn't dictate how you do it, you just have to do it. Does that help?
Yes, Councilor Motley.
Is it possible, just random thought here again, say in 20 years, it drops and it's not 85%, are we still, because of this bond or USDA loan or whatever, are we required to still maintain 85%? Let's say 20 years from now it drops to 70 and the solar panels fail, are we still required the 85%?
That is probably something I can't answer. It would
Okay.
probably be a question for the state. And I forget who's providing the money, which state agency, but we can follow up with them. I think it's Department of Public Safety, so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you.
I will make a comment on that question. Based on the current trajectory, if we were to work on a similar facility right now with similar funding, we'd have to do 100% energy.
Of course.
Basic, yeah. So the trajectory is going the other way versus down at the moment. But again, I can't speak to 20 years in the future, so.
And real quickly, the answer to the question that we're seeking could come from the state of Minnesota with respect to the to the construction itself. And once the construction's over, the payment of the bond could be different because it's a USDA loan. Maybe they don't require that. So if you could get those answers, it would be appreciated very much.
Yeah.
Do you have any information at all, Brian?
Maybe, Mayor.
Thank you.
In most circumstances, the B3 obligation continues for 10 years after construction is complete, initial construction completes.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Super.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Councilor Motley?
No, that's it, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, looking for, Councilor
I
Paulson.
have a couple more things to add real quick, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay.
Okay, then
on this
Councilor
one.
Paulson with the
Yeah, of
question.
course.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, so Sean, could you just explain why this is under a change order if it was part of our overall budget? Is it
Correct.
specifically because of what the mayor said that then we're going to get a credit back for that, or?
Partially. Originally, Kraus Anderson under our construction GMP we were not carrying, or we're currently not carrying this part of the scope of the project, the solar, but we knew because of the B3 requirements that we're gonna need to do it one way or another. There's more than one way to approach this. One of the other methods is to go through a state procurement approach, which was one approach we had explored early on a few months ago that would have most likely resulted in solar vendor from we don't know where for sure, and in an effort to keep things local is one reason we're doing it this way. So then it basically keeps us under Kraus Anderson and Archie, our electrician. And so basically it's a matter of moving, sorry for talking with my hands so much, but to illustrate, it's really moving the funds of the solar from one spot on the budget line up to the construction portion.
That was my question. So answered, good.
Very
Thank
good,
you.
yeah.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Good, great question. Thank you, Councilor Paulson.
I want to add, because this is a really important and good news, we are aware of, we're working on and we're aware of rebate opportunities also associated with the solar. So we're talking about a relatively large, single dollar value on this one change order request. But we have located some rebates. I don't want to make any big promises yet, but there could be some things up to 30% rebates on the solar. So we will continue to work on that and try to get that money back into the project budget.
Thank you. That was my next question. Thank you for
of course.
being ahead of it. So
We have other rebates too we're working on. This one is specific to solar, pardon me. We also have energy rebates and things like that that we typically work on, and those will be coming down the road and be some money we'll hopefully work back into the project in the future.
we look forward to that information moving forward. So council action with respect to item 4A.
So moved.
A move to approve by Councilor Motley. Is there support? Support. By Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do appreciate all of the discussion. That's great, thank you. I do have up on the screen, you can see the different locations of the ground array and the roof array, so it'll be split between the two. Moving on to the next one is change order request number 38 for adding additional overhead door controls actually all the overhead doors, and I have a picture here to kind of illustrate what exactly we're talking about. This helps explain it, hopefully. So the way that the original project was estimated for had controls like this at each of the individual doors. During coordination and et cetera, things when we're going through submittal phase, procurement phase, it was brought to our attention that we needed also, in addition, one central spot. So in an event of a fire call, the fire department could hit all of the doors in one spot, they would open, and then they'd be out their way. So this one's for adding those additional buttons is
And
$3,000.
this request came from?
Well, this was
Internally?
a fire department request, and then also
Thank you.
coordinating through the project and realizing that was something we needed into the project.
Certainly. Very good. Thank you.
Move to
Yep.
approve.
Councilor Paulson moves to approve item 4B, the change order with respect to the overhead door control boxes in the amount of $3,667.25. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next one, please, Mr. Lewis.
Change order request number 41. This is an example when we do the tours, and we do encourage people to pay close attention when they're walking through, and it was noticed that in the case management room on the second level, C218, there were some more outlets needed in the space there. So that one's $3,849.76, simply to kind of add some improvements to that space.
Is that in the police area?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Move to approve by Councilor Freely. Is there support? Support. By Councilor Johnson. Further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please, Mr.
Yes,
Lewis.
and last but not least, change order request number 42. It's titled Access Control Changes, but to provide a real quick summary of what that is, we have access control already in the project. When we're going through and doing our, I'll say, intense coordination between Permar for access control and security, our door vendor, and Kraus Anderson, our electrician, et cetera, and the design team, of course, a few things such as a duress system, which would be at the reception area. Part of this is that would be a duress system where at the reception a button could be pressed to notify the rest of the people in the facility that there's an emergency at the main lobby, and that kind of sets things into motion. We realized that was not in the whole system at the time yet, so we wanted to get that in, and we still have time to coordinate it and get all the rough in and everything in. So that's $2,742.86.
So moved.
Move to approve change order, request number 42 for access control in the amount of $2,742.86. Moved by Councilor Johnson. Is there support?
Support.
By Councilor Motley. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have for change order requests to recommend this morning. Looking ahead, we have also a lot of really good things coming up. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing, window installations, finishing overhead door installations. If you've driven by recently, you can see the overhead doors, at least on the roadside, are in and not quite fully operational, but they're getting close. Painting, wall panels, tile, casework, Lots of work getting done. The solar array procurement installation, after approval this morning, we'll start getting things in motion for ordering all of the solar panels and associated equipment. And then also, I'm kind of excited to say, site work resuming as soon as the weather allows. You get rid of the white stuff on the ground, and then we can get back to work with finishing the parking lots, concrete curbs and gutters and sidewalks and things like that. We'll be working on those really soon.
Okay, thank you. Before we go to Councilor Johnson, really quickly, we did go to the Brownfield meeting, and I had an opportunity to sit with the mayor of Hibbing, who's in the process of building a new public safety center over there, and he might be interested in coming for a tour. So if it's all right, I'll refer him and his staff to you to
Absolutely.
to showcase our great project.
Be happy to do that.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to be proactive on, from the last tour I took, there was a gentleman from one of your subcontractors going around testing repeaters and where we need to put radios within the building. I feel very strongly that should not be a change order. We should not be billed extra. We hired Wald as the professional that builds these buildings. That should have been somewhere in the plan to put in repeaters. If it's not, I would like to ask that KA and Wald figure out how to do that without a change order, because it's a steel cast building or a concrete cast building.
Yeah.
That should have been a given. So I would ask that you all work on that so it's not a huge change order for us, please. Thank you.
Noted, sir, and I will look into that and report back.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. McNamara, any other final comments with respect to this project?
Not for me, sir. John?
Any other questions from the council with respect to this? Moving forward, hopefully open, what, next month? Soon.
Maybe for a tour.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Sure. We can do another tour. That'd be fun. Right now,
thank you.
fully operational by September is still the goal and the plan right now. Furniture in August, yeah.
Well, thank you. It is very meaningful and productive to have these updates every week, and thanks for coming and doing that. And Mr. McNamara for taking the trip up and to accommodate us as well. So we appreciate everything.
Yep. Thank you, sir. Have a good day. Have a good rest of your day, everyone.
You too as well. Have a safe trip back. Thank you. Next item, please.
Thank you. Mr. Voss is still in his 9 o'clock meeting, so thankfully we'll just keep moving on. So we'll go to number 5, discuss the ordinance for issuance of conduit revenue bonds for the HRA project known as Alice Nettle Tower.
Okay, thank you. And we have Gigi from the HRA. If you turn the light on to green, please.
Sure.
And formally state your name for the record and welcome.
Gigi Grahig. Good morning, Mayor and council members. The request this morning to adopt the city ordinance because Minnesota State Statute 462C.02 requires that the city pass an ordinance to authorize HRA to conduit bonding for housing projects. This ordinance is not specific to this project. It authorizes Virginia HRA to act in this capacity going forward. I want to take a moment to share a bit about background information where this is coming from. The Alice Nettle Tower, located here in Virginia, is currently owned by INH Properties. It is a senior affordable housing community with 156 units. A company called ANT Canopy is looking to purchase and renovate this property. They approached Virginia HRA to ask if the HRA would be willing to act as a conduit issuer for tax-exempt bonds to purchase and rehabilitation of this building. You may ask, why did they come to HRA? So, under the state statute, federal law, local government allows local government units, including either the city or the HRA, can partner with private developers by issuing bonds. This partnership structure is common and widely used throughout the state of Minnesota. It works because of the involvement of the local agency, like HRA. They're able to lower their borrowing cost and lower interest rates for the developer. That savings helps ensure the project remains affordable and financially viable for the long term. You may ask why this matters to us. We believe this is a good fit for the HRA. This kind of project is aligned with our mission and expertise. And Alice Nettle Tower is actually connected to our HRA building. You may know Columbia Richelieu Properties. So we already have a relationship with this site, and we really want to see it succeed. Importantly, this project is being funded through bonds and tax credits. It is not affecting the city or HRA's taxpayer dollars. There's no cost, no risk, no impact on cities or HOA's credit rating. Some additional reassurance for you. The bonds will not affect HOAs or city legally or financially. The current staff at Ellis Nettle will be retained, and developer expects to invest roughly $70,000 per unit, which is a substantial reinvestment into the building and the community. This ordinance authorizes the HOA for conduit bonding only. Any other concessions this developer or future developer request, such as TIF or tax abatement, will have to go through City Council. An HOA, if approved, would receive one-time issuer fee paid by the developer at closing. So the bottom line is, this is a chance to make significant investment in a long-standing affordable housing complex we have in Virginia without spending local tax dollars. We hope you'll support this ordinance so we can move forward with the next step and continue improving housing in our community. Thank you for your time, and I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I'm sure we have a number of questions for you. So we're going to start
Answer
with our
them.
city council elected officials and our legal counsel and over to our community development director too for comment. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Gigi, for coming and speaking. When I got this email, I didn't know anything about the project. So I reached out to the attorney.
Ann Burns?
Mr.
Yep.
Burns, and we had a wonderful conversation. He was able to walk me through the project, the company, is it Stonebeam LLC? They are out of Chicago. They're fairly new to their acquisition portion of their company, Phase. And what I've researched on them, it seems like they would be an amazing fit to do this rehab or remodel. And it seems like they really care about elderly and just fitting in the style of, I don't know, redevelopment that would make people feel that they are living in a really nice place. So I liked that concept. He explained about the conduit bonding and that no TIFs at this point were coming forward being requested or tax abatement, and I'm assuming that's still correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the only question, I guess, when I talked to him, I said, well, what's the difference if the city just maintains its own statutory authority under 462C and everybody agrees that the project is a good project? What's the difference between either the city or the HRA? And he said basically there's no difference. But if the city gives the statutory authority for, and maybe you can jump in if I'm saying this right or wrong, that if the city passes an ordinance to give the HRA the 462C statutory authority, it does not negate us from continuing that authority. However, it is not project specific, so any project in the future could come forward. And I guess I'm concerned if the city could be that conduit. And this looks like an amazing project to use the low-income housing tax credits and to do a rehab on a building that it's very integral to the city of Virginia. So I'm really excited about the project, but I'm just concerned as to the statutory authority. And what Mr. Burns has stated is that the only way you can pass the ordinance and give the statutory authority of 462C, but the only way to undo that is it repeal the ordinance. So I guess, and then they're on a timeline to get this so they can apply for the is it the state?
Through MMB.
So I think it's June or July. They've got a timeline, so getting this ordinance would be really important. But if we didn't do the ordinance, there would be nothing stopping the city from being the conduit that could just allow them to apply for that right away. So I think my question, I'm totally in favor of the project. I think it's going to be a really good fit. My question is, should the city be without a lack of a better word, delegating 462 statutory authority to an HRA blanketly because it is not project-specific, when the only other option would be then to repeal the stated ordinance change.
Thank you. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. So I'll qualify this by saying I am not bond counsel for the city, and bonds are a highly specialized area of practice, and it's always good to go outside to receive independent advice on bonds from bond counsel. That being said, Counselor, I think you're generally correct as it relates to kind of the overall here. So what we've got is a project that's a really good fit, and we've got a request by the HRA that we delegate certain authorities to allow them to use the conduit bonding system in order to finance projects, but it's not a project-specific. The way that I understand this, it would not impact the city's ability to utilize its own bonding authority, so it wouldn't, by granting this authority, it would not restrict or reduce our ability to bond. But it is a blanket, and not that I want to sound nitpicky, but what we're doing here isn't really delegating an authority, we're duplicating an authority.
Duplicate, that was the
So-
word I
so
was trying to.
By allowing this, by passing this ordinance and allowing this grant of authority, we're not giving up our right to do this. We're basically duplicating and handing to the HRA an equivalent power. That the question, I think, the issue you raise is the appropriate one is, do we want to grant this long-term, or is this something we want to look at on a project-by-project basis? And that's a policy decision that the council needs to look at, how independent, and not to make this sound negative, but how independent do you want to make the HRA? Or when there's really big decisions like this, do we want to maintain a situation where we still need to check in with each other so that each knows what the other is doing and kind of has an eye on all those projects? So it's really a policy decision. It appears, by my understanding of it, that passing this doesn't harm the city. It just delegates an authority long-term.
And
Counselor
that's the
Paulson.
way I understood it, and that's the way it was explained to me by, and I feel like he's the bond counsel, is that correct, Daniel Burns? And so, the way he explained it, it does make sense, but he did indicate, and I'm trying to recap our conversation, we were on the phone for like 45 minutes, but he did indicate that because it's not project-specific, that it basically is blanket authority. And so could you define, I've read the statute, but what is the authority that is being given? Is it just conduit bonding authority, or is it blanket authority? What other kinds of authorities would be duplicated to the HRA upon granting this ordinance?
And if you could just answer the secondary ancillary question to her, is that once that question is answered in your professional perspective, that the repealing of the ordinance after this authority is given is the option that we have. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. So obviously, the conduit bonding system essentially means that, so essentially, private developers will come in and essentially utilize bonding funds by working with a government entity. And as we currently sit here today, the city of Virginia, through that statutory mechanism, has the ability to do that. The HRA doesn't have the ability to do that. And so the HRA can't engage a private developer or partner with a private developer on a project utilizing conduit bonding without the city's participation at this point.
And I'm all in favor of the project. I'm just concerned as to the process that we would follow. But I love the project. So I guess that's where I'm at a quandary of, if given that duplicate authority, what does that look like? And the only other remedy then would be to repeal the ordinance if that's what was the council wanted or mayor wanted.
And that's correct. So
Okay.
the options in this case are either pass the ordinance, allow the Virginia HRA to utilize the conduit bonding authority, or the city could volunteer to step in and act as the conduit bonding agent. And if the first course is taken, the cities in the city wish to restrict or withhold that power, once again, the option is to rescind or retract that ordinance.
Okay, one other last discussion item I had, and I'm sorry, Gigi, is I asked if there was, you know, sometimes if we're the fiscal agent and you're the administrating something, you get a portion of that, a percentage portion. And I believe he said it's 0.01, it's small, but he said if it's a $10 million project, it would approximately be about a $25,000 fee to be paid to the entity that they would be issuing. Yeah, so minimal staff work for either HRA or the city. The bond council, they basically do all the paperwork. Everything is done for whichever entity would have the delegation of that. So with that being, I just wanted to add that one other thing, that there would be a $25,000
B,
fee to be paid to whichever entity.
yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor Paulson. Counselor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. What year was Ellis Nettle built?
1975.
1975, so it's 50 years old. And have there been any major updates to that building in that 50 years?
My understanding, it has not. Their sprinkler system, I was told it's 50 years
Yep, so
old. Major renovation in their
yes.
units as well as their parking lot, roof.
the entire building, yes.
Building.
And I appreciate all the work you all have put into the other two buildings. That has been well noted, and a lot of happy residents over there. I think that approving this allows you and the HRA to move forward with a lot of other housing needs as well. I feel no need to regulate that. HRA has always done a phenomenal job of communicating with the city and the city council about their needs, their wants. I think that that you've already done all the work that needs to be done for this. You have the contacts, you have the bond counsel, you know the people, so I see no reason why we should not create this ordinance and move forward. And Brian, this is a question for you. What is the process of repealing an ordinance?
Mr. Lindsay?
Essentially, you pass a secondary ordinance that overrides or repeals the first.
With two, does that need two readings as well? Okay. So I am not in support of the city doing anything with this. If you've done all the work, we are already down a couple staff in our administration for multiple reasons. So I appreciate that all of this has done already. I appreciate that we're looking forward and planning for the future for our older residents, residents with disabilities, the marginalized communities that we often forget. So I will be in full support of passing this ordinance, and actually I will move to adopt the ordinance as presented.
Okay, Counselor Johnson moves to approve the ordinance that we're discussing here as presented to move forward. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Counselor Bachschneider. Is there any further discussion? I'll go to Counselor Beyondich first, and then over to Counselor Motley. Counselor Beyondich.
You, and I've been trying to connect with Dana to speak a little bit more on this, and we haven't been able to, but Gigi and I had a conversation before the meeting. And my concern was going forward with TIF, with the tax increment financing that would be burdened by the taxpayers of Virginia. And you did assure me
This
that,
does not allow Virginia HRA any kind of authority.
I'm sorry,
This doesn't give HRA any kind of authority when it comes to TIF, tax abatement, or any other concessions that developers may ask.
and that,
They come through for city council for review and approval.
okay, and that was one of my main concerns, is that we, so thank you for clarifying and explaining it to me. So by passing this, even though other projects would come, if a TIF was involved or spoke about, or tax abatement, or any of that,
Would
it
have
would
to come through the
still
city.
come before the council.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Counselor Beyondich. Counselor Motley.
That was pretty much what I was curious about, what future projects might look like. And thank you very much for this. I think we can all agree that Ellis Nettle needs help So I guess my one question was maybe to Brian, what would be a reason the council would would, just hypothetical here, would repeal this ordinance if passed?
That makes it project specific then. Mr. Lindsay.
Correct.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so there may be a whole host of reasons that the city may look to repeal it. It may just be a policy, or like I had indicated, if they feel the HRA is overutilizing the authority, or if the city just decides that they would like to pull that authority back to themselves alone. Again, the ultimate policy question is how much autonomy do we want to give to the HRA, or do we want to be connected to projects still to make sure that we've just kind of got our finger on the pulse of what's going on?
Do we still have our finger on the pulse going forward of things if we approve this ordinance? Or are we giving up authority? And I'm not trying to be negative on the HRA. I'm very thankful for you guys and what you've done.
Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. So the answer to the question is we're not giving up any authority, but what we're doing is we're duplicating the authority. So essentially, the HRA could enter into conduit bond arrangements in the future with, partnering or engaging with private developers, utilizing the conduit bond system to implement projects without coming back and seeking authority from the city. Now, our current administration at the HRA communicates with us wonderfully, but you had asked why may we claw that back? Maybe future administrations, years and years down the road, don't communicate as effectively, or we don't have the same quality working relationship that we do now. And those may be concerns that the city may want to restrict that autonomy just a bit.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Motley. Okay, so it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Bachschnider.
Thank you, and I think, Mr. Lindsay, you summarized what I was going to say there, that we know that you guys are great at reporting to us and really good at presenting. Another thing I would even recommend is maybe, by motion, we consider asking for quarterly updates, and then in the future then, if we don't have the same amazing staff, that we know that we're covered, just going forward. So that'd be something that I would recommend, and when we're done with this discussion, happy to make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bachschnider. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Councilor Bachschnider?
I'd make a motion to ask the HRA to provide quarterly updates to the full council and mayor at committee of the whole meetings on all projects.
Support.
Moved by Councilor Bachschnider, supported by Councilor Beyondich. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion
No.
carries. I'm sorry. Roll call, please, Pam, then maybe I should have asked you to comment before. Roll call, please.
Motley,
Yes.
Paulson,
Aye.
Yondich.
Aye.
Bachschnider,
Aye.
Friedlieb. Aye. Huffy,
Aye.
Johnson.
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Brian?
Thanks, Mayor. And I just wanted to clarify that the effect of the first motion, as I understand it, would be to move this to the council, the regular council meeting for first reading.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that would be part of the motion. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Lindsay. Okay. Have we voted on that? We did. Okay. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gigi. Very much appreciated. Very much. I'm sorry. I didn't see your light. Councilor Paulson. Could you just turn your light on, please? Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry. I don't know if you have any more time, but when we get the attorney on the phone for the Cable Commission,
Yes,
I don't know if you want to maybe.
love to.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, please.
Thank you. We're going to go back to item number 3, which is Bob Voss from Kennedy and Graven to discuss the MediaCom City of Virginia franchise ordinance. Bob, can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Thank you. We have Bob Voss on the phone. We have proposed that they have the MediaCom franchise agreement in their packet. As we have Bob here to answer any questions that we might have.
Well, I have a couple questions. Not related to the contract itself, although I'll reserve my comments for that. But it seems to me that MediaCom, who doesn't have an office in Virginia, has significantly eroded the services they provide to the community. Just the other day, at one of these club and organizations where they pay X amount of dollars for MediaCom services, now they don't provide some of the services that they did before, and without notice to anybody about that. So my concern is about the franchise itself, what kind of services they provide, the erosion of the service they provide, and their inaction with respect to working with the city up to this point. So I'm a little concerned about that. Those are frustrated comments that I'll make, but I'll have some further questions later on for you, Mr. Voss. Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the council? Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Is it Bob Voss or Vos?
Bob votes. Yep.
Vos, okay, thank you. I just wanted that clarified. I wrote the page number down. It's, I think, page 24 in our packet. Let me go look. And page 17 of the overall contract. Let me just scroll, I'm so sorry. And it would be, yep, so it's the bottom of page 7, Article 5, Construction Initial Service Area, Line Extension and Construction Standards. Then it talks about the service area. Then it says grantees shall extend the system and offer cable services without individual charge to subscribers in all areas of the city with at least 25 dwellings per mile of cable required. Then it talks about dwellings units or more per cable mile. Grantee may provide cable television on a cost-sharing arrangement. And I don't know if this just applies to the distance or if this applies to apartment complexes. And specifically, I've had several conversations with tenants that reside in a subsidized, I guess it would be senior living on a fixed rate, that they had, I believe it was the HRA, had maybe talked to, worked throughout a contract with MediaCom. Since then, the HRA was notified that HUD no longer will allow them to process cable payments in that fashion to subsidize cable payments. So the residents that want to take advantage of having cable access, they are paying $197 when other tenants in other negotiated complexes are paying $75 per month. And I don't know if this portion in the contract addresses that, Bob, but I'd like to be able to possibly add language, if it doesn't address it, that would assist our elderly residents living in subsidized apartment complexes on a fixed income.
Yeah, Mayor and council members, can I go ahead and respond to those first two points that were made, and then maybe that will stir the pot on some other questions. Maybe there are some other questions. Is that okay?
Yes.
Great. So let me take them in reverse order. As to the provision of service to a multiple tenant dwelling, whether it's subsidized or market rate or otherwise, good question about whether the language on page 17 of the franchise applies there or not. That language really does not apply to the situation you're describing. The language you're looking at there in the franchise talks about when MediaCom is required to invest in new plant, extend new plant out to areas that are not capable of receiving service. And so to the extent this multiple tenant, this apartment or otherwise, whatever the nature of the tenancy is, to the extent that building has been receiving service, obviously it is served by MediaCom. This is a question of the rates, the terms of service. And there is not language specifically addressing either in the prior franchise that you're looking at. Of course, we've just redlined, we've made changes to the prior franchise. So there is not language in the prior franchise nor proposed new language that would address the rates charged to multiple tenant dwelling residents. The reason for that, and sometimes lawyers have to deliver bad news, and I guess this is one of those times. The reason for that is that as a matter of federal law, as a matter of Congress and the FCC, all local authority over rate regulation is now preempted. There is no remaining state or local authority to regulate cable rates, which I know is incredibly unsatisfying since that is now the primary concern that I think folks have. I mean, the world has obviously changed, and getting the internet and getting good high-speed internet is probably a higher concern for most of your residents these days than the cable TV piece of things. But to the extent cable TV still matters to folks, how much they pay for it is at the top of the list, and maybe always has been. There's not really anything cities can do about that. That said, as a matter of federal law again, rates charged throughout a given community have to be uniform. And I can assure you that I don't know what level of service folks in this apartment building were attempting to receive, but $194 is an outrageous amount, obviously, especially for folks that would be unable to pay for such a high level of service. And so I think there's probably something we could have some traction on. There's certainly the basis for a conversation with MediaCom about what the heck they're doing with respect to those charges, what justifies those charges. So there's a basis there to have that conversation, but it's really not possible for us to write into the franchise some limitation on or regulation of rates. We can just look for uniformity. So I understand that that's probably not a super satisfying response, but that's the reality that the federal government has given us.
And thank you, I really appreciate that. And I kind of figured I had the wrong language that I was referencing in the franchise contract. But that being said, you feel that that could be a conversation that could be had at some point with MediaCom to address, I don't know the word you used, so it's equal, equitable? Uniformity. Thank you, Pam. So there is some uniformity there, and I know that those tenants would greatly appreciate that conversation. And I don't know the amount of tenants in that building, but I want to say it's quite a lot.
And if I can move on to the first point made about the local office. Of course, I've been working with your staff, with Britt, on the various changes that you see, proposed changes. The company, by the way, we've sent this along to the company as of the very end of March. They have not reacted to these changes. They have not responded to them at this point. And so I can't tell you what their view is on the changes that we've proposed. That said, Britt certainly brought to my attention probably a couple of times that MediaCom has had a local office, that it's closed at some point not so long ago, and that's also unsatisfying to the council and to residents in the city, understandably so. And I will just tell you the backstory on that issue. I had assisted the city back in 2012, 2013, when this franchise was last renewed, last re-upped. And this was an issue then. There was a local office at that time, and the council at that time wanted to memorialize that requirement, put that requirement into this franchise. I believe the franchise back prior to 2013's renewal, I believe the earlier franchise than that did have a requirement for a local office. And MediaCom said no, or maybe more accurately, absolutely not. As a corporate policy, we no longer will agree to local offices because as an operational matter. We have to change those from time to time where they're located. But they gave assurances at that time to the council that they had a local office and they had no plans to get rid of it. Apparently, to one extent or another, they made good on that. Apparently, they maintained the local office in Virginia for some period of time up until fairly recently. But I guess I'm just making the point that they've not previously had an obligation, a legal obligation to the city to retain that local office. And what I've said to Britt is we certainly, I mean, my job here is to obviously advocate for you and your positions. We can certainly propose language requiring the return of that local office or some form of local presence, more presence than just driving trucks into town from time to time to work on people's service. They will absolutely not agree to that. I mean, I've dealt with this issue enough times in MediaCom. Again, literally not what you want to hear, but that will be their position. So, I mean, I guess to the extent we want to propose that, we ought to talk a little bit about what we're going to do next, because there is no scenario that I see in which they're going to agree to that. And again, that's unsatisfying. I would say that, as I'm sure council is aware, there is a fairly extensive set of federal FCC created customer service regulations on the relationship between cable companies and their customers. And those obviously have to be complied with in full, whether a company provides a local office or not. But I absolutely acknowledge the point. I mean, the point being that when a cable operator or any telecom company has an office in your city, they're going to have a presence there and their customer service is going to benefit from that. I will not for a second deny that. I think that is absolutely true. I'm just reporting to you how we got here and what I would anticipate their response would be.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vos. We have a couple more questions from the council. I just want to follow up on my first comment about, I understand the legalities of it. I read the contracts through and through and the previous contract that I could find in my office. But the issue for me is that the point I was making, it's an erosion of services. Not that they're required to have the office here now, but there's just been erosion of services. And when you have an office 25 miles away and you call the MediaCom services and you're on the phone for a significant amount of time to try to get through to an operator, and then you have the people who are elderly and get frustrated, they can't comply. So the erosion of services is a concern to me. So this franchise agreement, I know it needs to have we have to have some kind of a comment about that moving forward. So, I mean, I'm speaking on the frustration of others in the community. I have some more things to say, but I don't think that it would be appropriate for me to do so because I'm trying to maintain a professional decorum here. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Brian, what is the vote that would be required to pass this agreement? So 4-3.
Majority vote?
I'll check for the charter provision. My recollection is that.
And I'm just asking ahead of time so we don't have any confusion later. Mr. Vos, thank you for being here today, and I have some hypothetical question. The first being, what is the ramification of us not having this franchise agreement? I feel like at this point we are once again in a do or do not situation, and then the follow-up would be, are there alternatives?
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Vos?
Yeah, Mayor, council members, great question. Of course, that's the sort of the ultimate question, isn't it? Here, what is the consequence if we don't work this out, or if the council doesn't want to move forward? I will tell you that in the normal course, the answer is that again, the federal government has given cable operators sort of, I'll call them special rights to be able to anticipate that their franchises will always be renewed unless they've done something quite wrong. They've been in violation of the prior franchise, they've been notified of that, and they've had their due process in relation to those violations, or they are unwilling to meet reasonable requests for changes in their franchise going forward. That's sort of a black letter law regarding cable franchises. But In order to invoke those rights, a cable operator has to timely give notice that they want to renew their franchise. Timely notice in this case means they have to give a notice quite a long time before expiration. This franchise first expired at the very end of 2023. We've extended it for a year, as council knows, but it first expired at the end of 2023. I guess I've not been told either by staff here or by the cable company, by representatives for the cable company, that the company did in fact give a timely notice invoking their federal rights. And not only that, but under the prior franchise, they had the right themselves to extend the franchise by asking to have it extended for an additional 5 years, which they also did not do, which has to be an oversight. I mean, there's just no scenario in which the company would have wanted to continue to operate in Virginia, but have failed to ask for an additional 5 years, but for an oversight. So it's quite a fair question always, but it's particularly significant here. I'm not aware of any pushback. I mean, basically what I'm telling you is that the city's discretion, if I have the facts right, if in fact no timely notice was given invoking their rights, the city just simply has discretion on whether you want to renew this franchise or not. That is an extraordinary situation. That doesn't happen. And so I guess I'd want to make sure that we haven't received a letter. It's basically just a letter notifying a city that the company wants to renew. That letter has to come 36 to 30 months prior to expiration. So this would have been 4 years ago, something like that. But assuming that didn't happen, and I haven't been told that it did, it would just be simply a discretionary decision. And then the appropriate follow-up question that you had was, what happens then? Well, as a matter of, again, federal and in this case, state law, cable operators can't operate without a valid franchise. Now, as a matter of practice, what's occurred here is very, very common. That is that a franchise will expire, discussions are continuing, the cable operator continues to operate. That is allowed to occur all the time, all over the state of Minnesota. It's quite common. But I mean, ultimately, if the parties are not going to renew the franchise, if there isn't going to be a franchise, both state and federal law say you can't provide cable services. So that ultimately would be the consequence. There would undoubtedly be legal action before that were to occur. But I guess I'm telling you, if I have the facts right, company would have quite an uphill battle in making an argument that the city must renew this franchise. And then alternatives, I guess I'm led to understand there is some potential for some discussion with a possible competitor. There is cable competition and, of course, internet and phone competition now being provided all by the same companies. Mediacom provides internet, as you know. There is some potential for a competitor to come to town to provide cable and the other services that I've mentioned. And that's perfectly legal. And whether you renew this franchise or you don't, it's going to be perfectly legal for the city to entertain that competitor. And ultimately, if you want to authorize them to provide cable services in addition to internet and phone services. They don't need your permission. No companies in Minnesota need a city council permission to provide internet or phone services. They need the city's approval to be in the right of way. You've got to issue permits to them if that's what you require under your code. So they need to get those kind of approvals. But as far as getting a franchise or some service related approval, they don't need that for internet and phone. But this company apparently would provide cable as well. And you'd be perfectly within your rights to grant them a cable franchise, whether or not you renew the franchise with Mediacom.
Thank you very much. Very helpful information. One of the things that I thought as you were talking is the current provider not doing what they need to do. Well, I think one of the things that we see is the update of the equipment, mainly the wires and those kind of things. Would that fall under that failure to provide and upkeep the system?
Yeah, Mayor Council, in addition to those customer service requirements, the requirements about the relationship between the company and its customers, the company also under your prior franchise, and it would be retained in any new franchise you issued, they've got technical obligations. They've got obligations to provide good quality services and provide a system that is capable of giving those good quality services. Obviously, there are some technical thresholds that can be tested to see if they're doing that or not. And I don't want to try and pretend that I'm a RF engineer. I'm not. But there are ways to measure the quality of their services and the technical capabilities of their system. And yes, they have obligations to do those things. As an editorial comment, as an aside, I don't think I'm breaking any new ground here by telling you that in the good old days, the work I've done for cities around the state on cable television franchises was quite exciting, and there was a lot of energy in cable TV. The reality is that folks, again, not breaking news here, folks are moving their video service providers over to internet delivered services. Think Hulu, think DirecTV Stream, think Apple TV, think all of the Netflix, all of the other ways that folks can get video programming over the internet. That the fact of that is very slowly pulling away subscribers from traditional cable TV, and quite candidly, the energy for cable TV seems to have gone out of the industry a little bit. And so what you're telling me about the condition of their network and what the maybe it was the mayor or the original speaker about the local office, that this all to me is just a reflection of a lack of energy from Mediacom, and I'm seeing that in lots of communities, to be honest. And again, third time I've said it, not exactly what folks want to hear, but that is a reality that the industry is facing, is that folks are moving away from traditional cable. It's moving slowly away, but that is certainly the trend.
Thank you. And then I just have one last general observation question. Based on what you've said and the timeline that potentially could exist, would it be prudent to do an RFP for other providers to see what else we might be able to get for ourselves?
Yeah, Mayor Council, great question. Again, the reality is that Minnesota's cable laws were enacted in the late 70s, early 80s. They're antiquated. They don't really match the way things work these days, but they are what they are. We've got to comply with them. And that state law requires that if we're going to entertain a new competitor in cable TV, that we do essentially an RFP. Basically, what the statute requires is that we give notice, we publish notice for a couple of weeks, we send it out to any interested companies. We get the word out, in other words, that we're looking, and then folks have a period of time to file applications for that competitive franchise. And so in effect, it's like an RFP process that's mandated by state law. And so I guess, it wouldn't literally be an RFP process like you might use for professional services or for other things, but it would be quite similar. The process would be quite analogous to an RFP.
All right, thank you very much. Very informative, a lot to think about. I appreciate your time today, Mr. Voss. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm back in the contract again. Page 26. Payment of the franchise fee will be made with an itemization of the gross receipts showing the basis for the computation. And I know, Mr. Voss, we do get I believe it's quarterly, is that correct, Britt? We do get a quarterly check for the franchise fees. And I'm on the Cable Commission, and some of the questions from some of the commissioners were, what is the actual number of customers? And I don't know, Britt, if that's actually provided in the breakdown, but it does state here, and I don't know if this is something that's changed, payment of the franchise fee will be made with an itemization of the gross receipts, and I would assume that would be the number of customers. Is that correct?
And Mayor Council, it could include that. This is existing language. This is not new language. So this has been in your franchise. Frankly, it's been in your franchises since you've had cable TV, which I think is quite a few decades now. And you have the ability, in addition to just getting this report along with your franchise fee payments, you certainly have the ability to simply ask the company to identify its number of subscribers. There may be some gentle pushback on that about that's a trade secret or we don't want to share that, but ultimately they can be made to give you that information if you want it. I don't know that answer. I mean, I could back of a napkin, I know generally the number of households you have, and I know generally Mediacom's penetration rate, the percentage of people that they typically get to subscribe. But I don't have an accurate count of their subscribers. I think you could get that information. We could get that information, though, if that's important.
Yep, I appreciate that. I know it has been requested several times, and it was never given by Mediacom. And I don't know, in terms of years, Britt, how often that the Cable Commission has requested. But they've requested it quite a few times, and I believe Mediacom has just declined to provide that information. So I guess what I'm looking for is, okay, would that be another breach of this existing contract that's been existing language ever since the inception, basically, of the franchise agreement with Mediacom?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd want to be a little bit circumspect in telling you whether it's risen to the level of a franchise violation. I guess I don't know the nature of the requests and the nature of the denials of the requests, but putting that aside, yeah, I mean, I've said, I mean, I think just the sentence that you've identified, I think if we dug through the franchise in detail, I think I'd find another provision or two that would support it, but the provision you've read, payment of the franchise fee will be made with an itemization of the gross receipts showing the basis for the computation. The city is well within its rights to say, to know the basis for your computation, we need to know the number of customers you've got that are generating these revenues that you're reporting to us. That's typical, and that's, so I think that's within the sentence that you've read that we're entitled to that information.
And I do think that's a reasonable request that the cable commissioners have asked for. And then regarding it's item B under rates and other charges. The city may regulate rates for the provision of cable service or any other communication service provided over the system to the extent provided under federal and state law. A list of the grantee's current rates and charges shall be maintained on file with the city and shall be available for public inspection. I do not believe that we currently have that information. And I don't know, Britt, if you
Get notified when there's going to be an increase?
But if it says a list of grantees' current rates and charges, but if they're charging one customer one rate and one a different rate, how does that reconcile with that language in the franchise agreement?
Mayor and Council, it does not.
That's my point.
Reconcilable with that. Now, bear in mind, obviously, as every cable operator does, Mediacom has a variety of different service levels, different service packages, and they're entitled to charge different rates for different service packages. But when two customers are receiving the same service package, as long as they're similarly situated customers, they're all residential customers, they're all whatever tier of customers we're talking about, everybody has to get the same rate. So, I've said that previously, and that's true. And it's true that despite the fact that there is federal preemption now of rate regulation, despite that fact, the sentence you've read about they must maintain the current rates and charges, that's perfectly enforceable. So to the extent the city wants them to comply with that, I guess the city needs to demand that information, but you're entitled to it.
And I really appreciate you following up with these items, but is that something then we would ask residents to provide to the city, our council or administrator, and then build a case to form some sort of a demand from Mediacom?
The Mayor Council, you could do that. I mean, in the first instance, I would just demand that the company provide the information. I mean, this provision says they have to do that. They're supposed to be maintaining it. That means, of course, updating it periodically. I think it was Britt that spoke. Maybe they're doing that, or they're attempting to do that, give notices of rate changes. The point is, though, that they're supposed to be giving you a full schedule of their current charges for the various tiers of service they've got. And if they're not doing that, then they should be required to do that. That's perfectly within the city's rights.
Okay, thank you. I think that was the only other questions I had for follow-up, but I think my goal would be to assist and try to help facilitate those that are experiencing this hardship with their current cable rates. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. Any other questions for Mr. Vos? Do we have a recommendation? We know this is just, we are discussing the contract or the ordinance that we have, so I think there's a lot more work to be done. Councilor Johnson.
I would move to table this to the next committee of the whole meeting for additional information as requested.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Moves to table. Is there support? By Councilor Freelieb. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vos.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Jim, you have something on the agenda here? You have something on the agenda that you need to address so you can get out of here? Okay, could we just take a short break? And then when we come back, address Mr. Rosberg's issues and then move on? Anybody amenable to a little short break? Okay, let's take a short break. I'm sorry, huh? Yeah, we'll do Jim, and then we'll go to the fire, and then we'll go back to the regular thing. So thank you. Let's take 5 minutes. Thank you.
Well, then there is where they had to. Overlay that, and then I'll try and get. So that December is the date. Yeah, December.
I think that was, okay, let's get started. Once again, thank you, everybody, for the short break that we took. Britt will be back momentarily. We'd like to deviate from the agenda so that Jim can get back to his duties and responsibilities on the fire department can do as well. So we'll move to, let's see, item number 7 under building and grounds. Direct staff to seek out additional funding plans for the steam conversion and building upgrades. It came back from the building and grounds, which Councilor Johnson is chair. Did you have some comments to make about that, Jim? Anything that? Okay, we'll hold that in advance until Bert gets back, and then we'll move on down to personnel. You're looking at personnel number 11, review and approve the updated utility worker job description. Is that what you're looking for? Which one you're looking for? Number 5? Number 5. Well, personnel is 10, 11, and 12. You mean interview committee for ASME positions or? Number 10, review the travel, no, this, I'm talking about, Jim Rosvit. Oh. Jim, is there anything else that's on there so that you need to talk about? Okay, we'll wait for Britt to get back for that. So then we'll move to item number 10, under personnel with respect to the fire department. Review the travel request for Stephanie Smith to attend the fire inspector / class certification moving forward. This was moved here to the communal hall for additional discussion. Do you have some comments or questions before we move for the council for further discussion? Chief Frederickson from our fire department, please turn the light on to green and welcome.
Good morning, everyone. We did watch the meeting. Sorry we couldn't be there last Tuesday. Some family obligations. I didn't see the posting make it to the agenda, but Stephanie was fully qualified to accept this position. This is a training that we mandate she obtains to continue with the ISO and home insurance discounts our presence provides. What was left off that travel request, it is fully reimbursable through the MBFTE. So that's important. But here to answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you. Councilor Johnson?
I will move to approve the travel request.
Support.
Okay, Councilor. What? Moved by Councilor Johnson to approve, supported by Councilor Freely. Further discussion, Councilor Bachschnider.
Thank you. So when I saw the travel request come to the council for approval, the question I had was, so because it was for the Minnesota State Fire Inspector 1, is it for the certification or is it for the upkeep thereof? Because per the job description, it does say must be Minnesota State Fire Inspector 1 certified and qualified. And so for me, it's more about the process of, I remember Councilor Paulson asking, is this candidate fully certified and qualified per the job description? And we were told yes, and then it appeared that the candidate was not if they are getting certified now. And so it's just more about the process of how we are doing things, I guess. That was more my concern, so.
Sure, and if we miss something job description wise, my apologies. We don't parse that out often enough. We don't cite those. I did what EJ did and knocked this over. I forgot my train of thought. We mandate that she obtains them. On the job posting itself, this was not a must-have prior. This was a must-be-able to obtain. And that's where within the 2 years. And I remember at this podium talking about that 2-year window of we expect her to get all these certifications in that time frame. All of us current staff were trained for emergency response, not pre-emergency prevention. And that's why we need her to go get that. And this follows our last 4 fire marshals that we've worked with in our 20 years. This has been the process. Get them on board, get them state certified to assist with fire code and the rental code in town as well.
Thank you. Is there anything else then on the training and experience list within the job description that we would expect that we are sending the candidate back for training for? Yes. Do you know what?
Assistant Chief Jonason.
Pretty much everything that relates to fire marshal code and inspections. Like Chief said, we all come from operations side. That's responding to calls, putting out the fires. This is life safety. It's not uncommon at all for fire departments. We have people move from the operations to the life safety, then they have to get qualified in all the life safety stuff because we spent all of our previous time getting qualified for the operations, the fires, technical rescue, things like that. Moving to fire marshal and life safety is a whole other animal unto itself. So part of, believe the miscommunication is she was fully qualified per posting to be eligible to apply for it. She's not a fully qualified fire marshal. That's kind of the industry standard now because people don't get into the fire service for codes and inspections. They get into the fire service to respond on the rigs and put fires out. So all of the code, inspection, anything that pertains to building plans, all that certification that is required within job description, she will have to obtain. We had a plan for that moving forward until the federal government decided to cut FEMA and NFA shut down for a long period. That's kind of a one-stop shop where we were planning to send the previous fire marshal before he resigned, and now Stephanie, to NFA because they can go there for 2 weeks. In the past, it was fully funded. All we had to pay for was airfare. Who knows what's going to happen to FEMA, so I can't say that anymore. We'll have to wait and see. But that is has been a low-cost option in the past that we've utilized with fire marshals and other staff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Buckschneider. Before I go to Councilor Paulson, so I know in the past we sent other people under the same circumstance that weren't qualified as a fire marshal, but here we have a fully staffed candidate who is a paramedic and a firefighter and can operate it full-time. If we were not to approve this, and it's fully reimbursable, which is a plus for us to do that, so it's free training for the most part, and so you're moving forward to that, and you have an in-house, it's a career enhancement opportunity, it's duties and responsibilities that needs to be formed within this construct of the fire department EMS service. It's an immediate response to a call for service that requires a fire marshal inspection, instead of waiting 2 weeks, a month for a state fire marshal to come in based on the priorities that they have. And the other part is that if we weren't to do this, and we were to have a fire marshal, so we either have a fire marshal or we don't have a fire marshal from my perspective. So then, if we don't approve this moving forward, which I think we should, and I was going to support moving that forward, is the fact that, so if we're going to put an RFP out to go for a qualified fire marshal that's already qualified, that constitutes another additional employee for the fire EMS, which is a significant cost associated. You have a current employee who's going to be trained. This particular part of the training is fully reimbursable, and we didn't know that before. We do then know that now. And so it's within the construct of a job description. We dealt with the other two fire marshals, with Mr. Clark, and then Mr. Keel and others moving forward. So it's a process we followed in the past. I can certainly understand the concern with respect to the costs associated with that, but I think it's just another tool in our toolbox in order to provide the services that the people need and expect. And the reimbursable part of this particular training is a benefit for us. So that being said, I'll move to Councilor Paulson and over to Councilor Johnson. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think for me, it was tabled just to get the additional information. And I'm looking in the packet and I don't see the job description, but there was initial confusion regarding the job description, I think, to begin with, because we were going to go external, then you found someone internal. And then it was stated that no changes were made because we weren't going external. Am I following the
Yeah, that's
correct
exactly the
line of
roller
what
coaster.
happened? Okay.
Yep.
But my question was, when I asked, I don't have do you happen to have the job description available? And then we're trying, like at the personnel committee level, we're trying to stick to contract language and, try to be consistent. And so when you look at the, is it training and experience? So it's number 8, is that correct? Must be Minnesota State Fire Inspector 1 certified and qualified to approve fire sprinkler plans. So that was what was stated, that they must be a Minnesota State Fire Inspector 1 certified and qualified to approve fire sprinkler plans. Is the candidate going to be certified by taking this training and is currently not certified? In that,
Training, I don't believe, pertains directly to sprinklers. In the training plan that we're putting together with the new fire marshal, that training will be obtained and that certification will be obtained.
so is this candidate it says must be Minnesota State Fire Inspector 1 certified. Is this candidate Minnesota State Fire Inspector 1 certified? Okay, that I feel like is the problem when we're trying to follow a process. And I don't know if we've done this in the past for other,
Fire marshal in my 20 years process, because there are no external candidates.
then I would make the necessary changes to the actual training and experience under the job description. And I think that's where the confusion stemmed from regarding the travel request, because it was already in the job description as being a qualification that was needed to be met in order to be put in the position. So I feel like that just maybe, then if we change that language, then we're fine. But the way that we did it, in my opinion, was the wrong process. We should have changed the job description and then had the candidate apply. So I don't know if we need to continue looking at job descriptions. I mean, as we try to, I think we try to do our best, but I feel like that's where the confusion was number 8, it says must be Minnesota State Fire Inspector 1 certified and qualified to approve fire sprinkler plans. And if we as a body do this, and we approve a candidate based on the qualifications or the criteria that's listed in a job description, and they don't meet that, that can be applied blanketly throughout any employee that we're going to be hiring. So for me, it's just the process and our level of consistency. And I don't know if that's where you're coming from, but that was my confusion. So I know that it's all funded, pretty much all covered. I'm totally fine with the travel. It was just what was actually being certified, and I was under the impression that this candidate was already certified. So I hope that explains it. And I don't know if you need any other clarification, Mayor, but that was my concern moving forward. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Councilor Paulson. So it's up to the Personnel Committee to take a look at that job description, make any necessary adjustments to the language with respect to that, whether it must obtain within a certain amount of time or whatever the case may be. Right now, we have a motion on the floor we don't have a motion yet, and we're just discussing this now. We'll move to Councilor Johnson, then back over to Councilor Bachschnider. Councilor Johnson. We do have a motion? I'm sorry, further discussion, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. I think the aspect that why I based my vote the way I did is because hiring a fully qualified, fully experienced fire marshal is probably very expensive. And it's only going to go up from there, as opposed to hiring somebody who we can train, who can learn who already knows the culture of the department, but also knows the community and is a part of that. I think those are all parts of financial responsibility that are important. And then as the person in the position gains experience, they would follow the contract and get the appropriate raises and such. So I think it's important to remember that while we might want to hire a fully qualified, fully everything, the chances of someone coming to us from anywhere else to do this position is not realistic at this time. So thank you, and I'll be supporting the training so they can be able to do their job well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Bachschnider, and then over to Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Councilor Paulson, and I will be supporting her going to this training as well, right? I understand that there's funding associated with it and that she needs this. My concern really is just about the process and what the job description says. Had the job description said must be, certified within 2 years of hire, I wouldn't have any concern. And so that is really where my concern is coming from. I'm also curious, and I don't need the answer now, but if we can get a list of what other certifications we can expect to see coming from the future, just so we don't have to have this conversation every single time. I think that'd probably be beneficial for all of us. So thank you.
Great idea.
Thank you, Councilor Bachschnider. Councilor Beyondich.
Thank you. And again, I'll just reiterate what's been said. And I think starting with looking at these job descriptions so there's no assumptions made, and we are just following that going forward would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Okay, it has been moved and supported to, under item number 10, review the travel request for Stephanie Smith to attend the Fire Inspector Class Certification 1. Has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
While you were gone, we thought maybe we'd get the issues that Jim Rosvet needs answered. He's looking for some information about some of the things with number 7 under direct staff on funding for steam conversion, and he's looking at item number 11, the utility worker issues as well. Jim, would you like to come forward, please? And maybe if we may have a question for you. So let's move to item number 7 under building and grounds. Councilor Johnson being the chairperson of this committee, and it was moved from April the 8th, 2025. Thank you.
I'll let Britt take it because she has the notes and.
Okay, thank you, Britt.
Thank you.
Thank you. At the meeting, we discussed the necessary steam conversions for the city-owned buildings and some building upgrades, namely roofs for other buildings. It was moved and supported to direct staff to seek out additional funding and a plan for the steam conversion and building upgrades.
Okay, thank you.
I will move that.
Support.
Moved by Councilor Johnson, supported by Councilor Bachschnider. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And the thought being there are no priorities for steam. The steam conversion for all the buildings is the priority, and unfortunately, as Jim alludes to regularly, we have now less than 2 years to get it done. So the staff will be looking for creative ways, efficient ways, and ways that will not cost us money in 2 to 5 years because we did it quickly. One of the biggest challenges is this building because all of our pipes are internal. They're all in the walls, and there will need to be testing done prior to any conversion to make sure that if we put a new system in, it doesn't destroy the rest of the building with the new system. So it's very complicated and it's going to take time. And Jim needs to be able to continue to move forward with the staff and contractors to get this done expeditedly. Thank you.
Thank you. And Britt, is that what Kurt was doing with that individual today going through the building?
No, that's our appraiser.
That's your insurer? Okay.
Insurance
This
appraiser.
is directly tied to that. Okay, thank you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Motley.
I just had a quick question. Are we looking, I'm not on this committee, but are we looking from buildings and grounds, anybody in the committee there, are we looking to liquidate any city buildings that we don't need so that we don't have to steam convert them?
Well, I think Jim has indicated that we have about 40 buildings. Of course, some of those are lift stations and things of that nature. So the roofs that need to be done and those kind of things. So as far as liquidating any buildings, looking for a recommendation from Jim, is there any buildings that, I know a lot of them need to be renovated. As far as liquidating them, that would be another question. And do you have any information you might want to provide or your opinion to Councilor Motley and the rest of us?
Mayor, that's the discussion that Buildings and Grounds was going to have, we're going to continue to have, is we're going to work out the list of buildings and then make suggestions on what we think we might be able to do with them.
Thank you, Britt.
That's exactly what you're saying was,
Yep, we're
because
doing
there
it.
comes that question of, is it sellable as it is, or do we have to renovate it to sell it? So we're going to keep working on this. It's not done by any means. But.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for interjecting, Britt. Thanks for that. Okay. Anything more comments with respect to that, Jim?
No, I just want to, again, reiterate how important it is to get the conversions done on the buildings we need to get done. And we do have a couple of roofs that are failing. And we've got water leaking internally in some buildings. It's not helping us all not to correct these actions. I just want you to make you aware of that. And the cost of these conversions are going to be extremely expensive. We've looked at them already. And October of '26, they've got to be done. And if we wait till next year, the prices are going to go up again. And I hate to say it, but the contractor's going to say they're in a predicament, they'll pay whatever to get it done now. And some of these are bigger projects where it'd be nice to see if we can work the bugs out of them. Like Councilor Johnson was saying, we've got to go back, we've got to clean the services in the library and city hall with a chemical, pressurize them, test them, see if they're going to hold up to our new natural gas boiler systems or not. There's a lot of variables on this. There could be a lot of change orders on this. I just want to make you aware of that.
Okay, so thank you. The motion on the floor and the second is to direct staff to seek out additional funding plans for the steam conversion and the building upgrades. There has been movement supported. There is a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So I believe when I added them all up, and I don't have my phone in front of me, but was it $4,450,000 for the City Hall, Fire Hall, Washington Manor, so all the actual building, or excuse me, the library, all the actual steam conversions, the most expensive of that was the City Hall. And my question is there an option for the city to take advantage of the no-interest loan from the public utilities?
We're working on that too. We
Okay.
get to do our gas application, which we're working on right now, and then we can have that conversation with them. I did ask, I think it was the bond counsel, Mia Thibodeau from Freiberger, said, can they give us a loan? She said, they are autonomous and they have their own tax ID number, so you are just like every other citizen out there. You guys can take the loan too.
That could be done, and I believe I did, when I did the amortization calculator, you had to put like some percentage in there, and I had to put like 0.01, but I think it was $18,000 a month over a 20-year period, if that would be a doable thing, or maybe go 30 years. But so I was thinking about like how we could fund this and how we could get it all. If you had one contractor come in and do bids, I mean, then they know what they're doing on all the buildings. I don't know how Buildings and Grounds is gonna choose to recommend executing that part of the process. But I was just thinking outside the box, and then I wanted to know, do we have any bonds dropping off? And so if we were to, say we were to execute a no-interest loan from the public utilities, at what point is it the following, like, is it upon completion that you start the repayment process?
I do believe so,
Or even if
yeah.
it's a bond, is it upon completion, then you start the bond payment?
Yes.
So do we have a gap coming up when not a gap, but do we have a bond dropping off in 2026?
Many, actually. So this is part of the discussion we're going to be having.
Okay.
I'm meeting with George Eilertson this week to run over, if we had to bond for this scenario without utilities off anything, what would that look like?
Yep.
And then what does it look like if we get utility money? Kind of figuring out, like Jim said, steam conversion's number one. We have to get the
Yeah.
steam conversions done.
And it would be really nice to be able to have no interest, but I did not know
Yeah,
if
that'd
the
be
public
wonderful.
utilities had enough money in their fund in order to help us accomplish that.
That's a great question.
Yeah, so, or if they could ask for that to be the fiscal agent between that happening, but it would be really nice not to have to pay an interest payment.
They're using the funds. They're at $2 million so far in their steam conversion also. So I know that they're in the same predicament that we're in.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I've been thinking a lot about this, Jim, and I'll, whatever we need to do to support you guys going forward. But I'd like to know some of the financial components, maybe as Buildings and Grounds discusses them further, if we could have that coming back to the committee of the whole, that'd be great.
100%.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Paulson. In addition to that, I think the public utilities has capped, or at least at this particular time, a maximum of $600,000 on the 0% loans for the purpose of, maybe to help everybody convert. But that was well for in additional conversations as you move forward, Britt, with your discussion about that. So Britt, we'll be having our thumb on the pulse of what's going on and try to come up with some plan moving forward. And I'm sure you'll be intricately involved in that as well. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Britt, I think the next item was 11 and 12, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Review and approve the updated utility worker job description, comes from the Personnel Committee. Councilor Paulson?
I would move to approve, and basically what it was, if you want to give me, if you want me
Yes,
to give
please
you
do.
just a little update.
Yes, thank you.
It was our administrative staff meeting actually with the AFSCME workers that are doing the job and getting feedback for what their job description really and truly is. When the job description was crafted originally, we were in the very beginning stages of the Iron Trail Motors Event Center. So this job description as amended now or as changed accurately depicts what those employees do as a utility worker day to day. And I would move to approve that.
Counselor Paulson moves to approve the updated utility worker job description. Is there support? By Counselor Freely. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Britt, item 12?
Thank you. Yep. Item 12 was, I had sent an email to the council stating that our hiring policy requires that the HR director, department supervisor, myself, and a department representative serve as the interview committee for AFSCME-related positions. I don't have the HR director right now, so I'm wanting to know how the council wants me to proceed. We have applications for the repair crew foreman, and then tomorrow, the applications for the library maintenance close. So I have 2 positions we need to interview for. Do you want us to continue with just the 3 remaining designated employees, which would be the department head, the department representative, and myself? Or does somebody from the council want to sit in the HR spot? How would you like us to proceed?
Okay, thank you. Counselor Johnson.
I think that the 3 of you are more than capable of interviewing folks and making recommendations to the council. My concern is that if a council member was to sit in on the interview, there could be the potential for overt or passive-aggressive potential influences from community members, and I don't want any of us to have to sit through that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a quick comment from me. I think we have professional staff for this person. If that's what the hiring policy says, it doesn't say there has to be that many people. I agree. I think they're fully capable of doing it. I don't think a city council member should be sitting on these interview committees. That's my perspective as well. Councilor Bachschneider.
Thank you. Do you know if AFSCME has a preference? I don't really have a preference, so as long as they don't, then I'm fine with no counselor on it.
Thank you, Councilor Bachschneider. So as far as the interview committee for AFSCME-related positions, looking for direction from the council moving forward. Before we do that, Jim Rosvid, our Public Works Director. Jim?
May I just say one thing also? And I brought this up in the past. I know, I want to pre-plan. Right now, I've been running shorthanded for 5 months, going on 6 months for a repair foreman. I've been cutting my staff to help out at the library every day. And we also have the new shiny apple that's going to need maintenance, janitorial, snow removal. I want to make sure we've got a ball rolling for that, where it's not all going to get dropped in my lap come October or November, where I've got to have people down there cleaning, snow removal. In the snow removal, it's not going to be a 15-minute snow removal. It's going to take some time. There's some islands, there's curb and gutter around there. It's a new building. And to prioritize that, I usually start off where we prioritize around Main Street and we pick up the fire hall then. Here I would be pulling a piece of equipment off over to there. So I just want to make sure that, we have some kind of tentative plan going forward so I'm not kind of bombarded again come fall time or when the building does open.
And thank you for that, Jim. And real quickly, I could see the strain on your workforce. And the strain comes from just many observations I get from the citizens and personal observation I'm sure the council has as well. And that is, you go to the Iron Trail Motors Event Center, which is a beautiful venue, regardless of, some of the angst some people have within the community about that building, but it's a very significant building that we have available to us, and we're fortunate to have it, in my perspective. But if you look at the grounds, it's tough because you have the winter is done, the snow is melted, there's sand all over the driveways, all over the roadways, on the apron going into the main office. I mean, it's taxing the ability for the workers because you're such short staff in which to accomplish that. So the goal and objective is to maintain a clean respectable and welcoming environment, and we're having a difficult time doing that as we move forward. So, Councilor Motley.
Just random thought, and this is probably a no, but the increased snow removal at the new fire hall that's coming, or public safety center, does public utilities do plowing?
They do just for around their electrical boxes and their gas substations, things like that. So all they run is a pickup and they plow their yard with one loader.
Okay.
And the fire department also does some limited plowing to get in and out, to make sure ambulances run in and out. Their fire trucks are available to go moving forward too, so.
Okay, noted. Thank you for that information. And the other thing, just thinking as we're talking, the maintenance on the inside of the new public safety center, is that when you're talking, I'm thinking, who's maintaining, I mean, are we talking more employees to clean the fire hall? Would they, because it's bigger, or who's cleaning the old fire hall right now?
The fire department cleans the old fire hall now. My department handles the maintenance in there.
Okay.
So Kurt or others, my repair foremen are down there. There's always a group down there dealing with something, but.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Councilor Johnson.
In that, the issue of plowing and maintenance was brought up at Buildings and Grounds, and we will also continue to have those discussions with what the staff that are currently doing that will do, what are their limits, how does that work moving forward. The police department will have a space that is probably 3 or 4 times the size of what they have now. So there'll be a lot of growing pains once we move into the building and as we figure out what's needed where and how that works. So we'll solve as many of the problems using the staff we have and the employees that utilize that space now, knowing that there might need to be adjustments or other creative ways of maintaining this new building. That's one of the plans, is to not let this building, that when we are using this building in 100+ years, it is still up to safety standards based on what the current codes are at that time. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. And I know we're kind of all segueing around a little bit here, but one thing that was brought up in our personnel committee meeting was, I believe Councilor Bachschneider suggested we do a working session, because so many of these things, whether it be buildings and grounds, like overlaps with employees, so overlaps with personnel, which then overlaps with finance. And so we were thinking maybe we could do a working session where nothing's decided, but we could all maybe put some ideas together, brainstorm a little bit, maybe understand, the state of the city, what we really need to prioritize and what we need to be looking at going forward. So I don't know if you'd like me to make a motion, but it's not on the agenda, but since we segued, it just brought to my mind that we had talked about that, and maybe a working session would be a really good way for us to just kind of understand and then identify some of the key things that we're going to need to be dealing with and facing, and how to prioritize those.
Well, I think a motion would be appropriate to move forward and direct staff to find a venue and a date that would be workable for us to brainstorm.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilor Paulson and supported by Councilor Bachschneider to direct staff to establish a working session moving forward to discuss many of the items we have for some problem solving, et cetera. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Johnson.
I'm confused as to how that is different than a committee of the whole meeting.
Well, it could be a committee of the whole meeting too, just maybe call it,
It's just where we're not voting on anything, and it's not maybe like no agenda is set forth. It's just more of a working session where we can brainstorm and maybe bounce some things off of each other if department heads want to attend or whatever. It was just a suggestion made so that, because there's going to be a lot of transitioning going on, not only steam conversion, but our police force and fire department will be transitioning to the new building and what operationally we might need to think about. So I feel like it was just kind of a overall, is that kind of what you thought too, overall discussion session?
And it could be, so it makes sure it's amenable to everybody's schedules, so you're not being deprived of any of work or financial loss as a result of this as well. So the motion is to move and support it to direct staff to establish a time and a date for a working session moving forward for the discussion. Jim?
I also want you to be aware with the steam conversions, that means more boilers in the city. More boiler license, more documentation, more people covering those. So those are things that are supposed to be inspected daily. So I just want you aware with the changes and the upgrades that, you got more manpower you're taking at that. So another thing to put on your list. Sorry.
Well, I think that's important that for part of the working session because staff is going to be intricately involved in those discussions as well. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Motley.
How many boiler license does the city have on city staff? Like, how many do we have?
Are we running 2 right now, I believe? And then we might need to upgrade with the new systems. That's something that needs to be determined yet, depending on the systems we run with also.
Does the school, this is just segueing, does the school have employees with boiler licenses? Do you know if Rock Ridge has employees with boiler licenses?
I assume they do. I'm sure they do.
They do.
Is that ever something, or is that crossing union lines?
I don't think, I think you've got my understanding with licensing, you have to work in that position to hold it, correct me, Ryan? Yes. I know with sewer demolition licenses that you have to work in the departments that you've assigned to get a license in. So they have to be on our payroll and run under our license.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. We're off on another tangent, but there's a motion on the floor to set a working session, which is it's important to make sure that when we do that, we have an agenda moving forward as well. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
No.
Roll call, please, Pam.
Beyondich?
Aye.
Paulson?
Aye.
Beyondich?
Aye.
Bachschnider?
Aye.
Friedlieb?
Aye.
Huffy?
Aye.
Johnson?
No.
Friedlieb. Motley.
Yes.
Aye, was it? Motion passes 6-1. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Okay. Okay, but go back up to item 6.
Thank you. Item number 6 is review the monthly financial reports.
Okay, some of you were in attendance to the financial report meeting today. Any questions, comments with respect to that? Did you get all your questions answered at that meeting? Councilor Beyondich?
Yes, we did meet at 7:30 this morning and went through the departments. The only one we were remiss on was the fire.
Always one.
Fire and ambulance, but otherwise, yes, we did get questions answered. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Beyondich. Okay, next item, please. I think under Building and Grounds, item 8.
Yes, number 8 is we had sent out the RFP for animal control, and we actually even extended it to try to get more responses, and we still are down with 1 response to our RFP for animal control.
Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. And the RFP we received, which is in the packet, is not feasible for the city to cover at this time. It's just, I would like to make a motion to direct staff to come up with a plan that meets our minimum obligations to state statute as we move forward.
Motion by Councilor Johnson, well-crafted motion. Is there support? Is there support? support by Councilor Boxner, excuse me. Further discussion? A hearing, Councilor Motley?
What had we budgeted, Britt, for the Humane Society this year that they did not take from us?
$45,000.
And this is just, do you know to date, Britt, what we have paid the Humane Society for $600 a pet? Sorry that this is not giving you a heads up, but.
To date, we've paid $12,631.10.
So it's safe to say we're going to be going over the money that they never took anyway?
It'll be close. Like I mentioned, in January, we had quite a few animals. In February, there was quite a few. In March, we had 2. I mean, so it's really a gamble of how many they actually take in.
Okay. Do you think it's worth city staff time to, well, I won't say that. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I think it'd be good for us to figure out what the minimums are and what our actual minimum
Okay.
would be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paulson?
Thank you, Mayor. Britt, could you also go over the whole spaying and neutering and what the requirement was, or like, because that's not a statutory or charter requirement, so I feel that would lower expenses if that criteria would be changed. So if you could add that to your review process. Thank you, Mayor.
And I think that encompasses in Councilor Johnson's motion as well. So it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Thank you. The next item is a request to enter into an agreement with the North St. Louis Soil, Water, and Conservation District for stormwater pond native planting at the Iron Trail Motor Event Center. And this is kind of a twofold thing. As part of our B3 compliance, we have to maintain these ponds at the Iron Trail Motors Event Center for another 7 years. Just over the years, there's been a lot of weeds that have taken over everything. Well, we so happen to have LCCMR funding still for the Silver Lake Trail Connection project, which goes by these ponds. So we can use the money we have in this LCCMR Trail Connection money to pay to have the Soil and Water Conservation District come remove the weeds, the invasive weeds, and replant with a pollinator-friendly planting that actually serves as storm retention and water control. So it's a twofold thing. We have the funds to do it with the grant. We have the company that's willing to do it, and it helps us with our B3 compliance in the end because it's stormwater retention.
Okay, very good. Councilor Johnson?
I will make the motion to move forward with that.
Councilor Johnson moves to approve the soil agreement and is supported by Councilor Motley. Further discussion, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Britt, with EarthFest coming up in a couple of weeks, would it be possible to create a simple infographic to be posted at the EarthFest, that's what we're doing right outside for folks to see and stay tuned for next year? I just think that's another one of those opportunities for good communication that we can utilize in the city with a captive audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Other items of concern?
Thank you. Number 13 is a request from the Charter Commission for some proposed changes.
Okay, I serve on the Charter Commission, and I maybe provide some additional information, but before I do that, we'll go to Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. And my only concern is that it seems maybe this is a better question. Does state law already regulate the number of people, and Brian, I guess I'll draw your attention. Does state law already take care of being able to Zoom in remotely, and would the charter changes, are those redundant, and would that affect state law moving forward?
Thank you, Councilor Johnson. Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. So the answer to the question is that state law provides when, as part of the open meeting law, the state law provides when and how remote access or remote participation in meetings can be had. And to the extent that our charter talks about absences from meetings or absences from the jurisdiction. I think the law would all coordinate that if you're participating in a way that's permitted by law, you're considered to be at or participating, present at the meeting, because all of those systems or all of those requirements provide that you must be able to hear and communicate with everybody and to participate in real time. And so it's the equivalent of being here. Now, I've reviewed the proposed changes, and I don't know that it adds anything. I think we're covered with the language that we have now. The language that's added may provide some clarification or just say, yep, we're going to be in compliance with state law. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Well, sitting on this charter commission, there was a lot of discussion about this. Just briefly, I don't see a need to make the charter change myself. I think it's redundant. I think that it already covers that, but the chair of the commission, former counselor and current president of the commission, John Cipla, resides in 2 different areas and out of the state, and wants to make sure that he can continue to participate via Zoom with respect to any charter commission meetings that are moving forward. I think the current charter language does give us that option which to do so, and I don't know if the changes, I don't necessarily believe the changes are necessary, but Councilor Cipla, former Councilor Cipla, the president of the commission, has sent information back to Pam and to have this put on the agenda today for discussion, so thank you. So,
I will move to receive and file the recommendation with a letter of thanks that we believe it's already covered in state statute.
Motion by Councilor Johnson to receive and file. Is there support? Is there support? Is there support? Support by Councilor Friedlieb. Further discussion? Anyone? Councilor Bachschneider.
I guess what's the problem with being redundant? Why would, is there a reason we would not want to be redundant? I guess.
Mr. Lindsay.
So I just wanted to add a couple of comments. So the ability to participate in an open meeting as a member of the body by remote means is fairly strictly limited. And I think what we would want to be careful about is to be clear that by charter, we're not attempting to create additional avenues for folks to participate remotely outside of what state law already provides. And the language that's been proposed seems to say we want to mirror what the state law is, which isn't necessarily as open and expansive as you can participate at every meeting. I think it's limited in the number of times you can utilize it. You have to be in a public space. People have to be able to have access to you, all of those sorts of things. And then the secondary question, or maybe policy question that the council would want to address or maybe consider as we look at all these things is, to what extent do we want to promote remote participation in our committees and commissions, or would the policy of the city tend to lean toward in-person participation by our residents? So, I think those are the primary considerations.
Thank you, Councilor Bachschneider. Councilor Paulson.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think we touched upon the technology of attending meetings, but there's on page 183, section 3.01, which language was added? The underlined that it says commissioners shall serve without pay. They shall be eligible for reappointment, except no commissioner shall serve more than 3 consecutive 3-year terms. No commissioner shall hold any other office or employment under the city during the term he/she served as commissioner. Is that language that currently exists?
Yes.
So what is the Is there an amendment to that language that they're adding?
182. And then we'll go to Counselor Johnson. Thank you.
Are they
Very broad.
unable to attend in person language?
I think under certain circumstances, if somebody's away on a trip or in a meeting or something, then a meeting comes forward, that they would be able to, under those circumstances, be participated by Zoom. But sometimes, I don't know if this charter change would allow that, and I will look for Brian for the concession, because we had the discussion at the charter meeting. So if somebody's gone for 6 months, do they continue to operate under Zoom for that 6 months because they're not available in person? And I think that's the impetus for the charter change, so that an individual who's on the Charter Commission can continue to participate by Zoom, even if they're gone for an extended period of time. I think that was the impetus for this. Just FYI. And so, Counselor Johnson, nothing, we're good? Okay. Okay, the motion on the floor is to receive and file. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item.
Thank you. Item number 14 is the city administrator employee performance evaluation, and this portion of the meeting may be closed at the employee's request as per Minnesota Statute 13D05, Subdivision 3.
And are you requesting that this be closed? Okay. So we can move to the city administrator employee performance evaluation at the request of the city administrator. This will be an open discussion and an open session. So I open this up for further discussion with respect to the council. You have before you the final numbers on the evaluation conducted by those who participated in this. And so are any questions or comments from the council with respect to that? And then we'll ask Britt if she has any questions or comments as well. So thank you. Councilor Johnson.
Mayor, I believe that part of the contract, we have a contract with you, right, Britt? Part of the contract says that when we do an employee evaluation, it is also tied to a increase in salary. And since this has been done to follow the procedure, what would the next, I guess, maybe Brian, what would the next procedures be to follow through with what the contract says?
Mr. Lindsay?
Thanks, Mayor. I would have to take a look specifically at the contract. This specific position is not part of one of the bargaining units, so it would be separate, and I apologize, I haven't reviewed the specific contract before coming in.
I would ask that you do that for the next committee of the whole meeting, please. I would move that you do that for the next committee of the whole meeting, please.
Moved by Councilor Johnson. Formulate that. Do you have the motion? Okay, could you read the motion back, looking for support?
Moved by Counselor Johnson to allow the attorney to review the city administrator contract for the next committee of the whole to determine an increase in wages.
Okay, thank you. Is that correct, Councilor Johnson? Is there support? Is there support? Is there support? A support by Councilor Freely. Further discussion? Councilor Motley?
I guess I'm not sure, but I thought the city administrator was getting raises like our department heads were per their contract, or am I completely wrong here?
Well, I think what this says is, if I'm correct, that it would be at the request of the city administrator to review the wage. Is that correct? Generally speaking, that would be the request by the city administrator to review if the city administrator chooses to do so.
Or I guess maybe I didn't. Okay.
The city administrator did not request that.
No,
just want to clarify.
I don't mean to be putting you on the spot, but my understanding, unless I'm wrong, since I've been on the council, is she's at the discretion of the wage increases of the.
Normally follows the MAPE contract.
Correct. So is that currently what's happening?
Yes.
So she is getting a raise every year per the MAPE's negotiated contract?
Correct.
So then this would be an additional talk of a possible raise in addition to the increases already given through the MAPE contract?
I think the motion is to review it. Review the wage that was a motion by Counselor. Is that
For the
correct?
contract.
The contract.
I'm asking that we review the contract to see what it says, so that
Yes.
we are not in violation of that contract.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Paulson?
Thank you. Could you read the motion back? Are we just reviewing the contract or reviewing the contract for for increases?
Motion, please.
Moved by Counselor Johnson, supported by Counselor Friedlieb, to allow the city attorney to review the city administrator contract to determine if there is a request for an increase in wages.
To determine if there's a
Increase in wages for the contract. Is that what the verbiage is?
Mr. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mayor. So the way that I understand what my directive is, it's to review and become familiar with the city administrator's contract so that I can answer the council's questions as it relates to performance reviews and compensation increases.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
Is there any other discussion on this one? Mayor? Mayor?
Yes,
Any
please.
other discussion on this one? On the performance review before we move on?
Okay, thank you, I'm sorry. Any further discussion with respect to the overall performance evaluation that's before in the packet today? And as indicated earlier, City Administrator Britt C. Bennis has chosen to have this as an open meeting, so if there's any questions or comments about the evaluation provided by those who participated. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just think it's very, speaks highly of Britt that the people she supervises in general think she's doing a great job. I have said this oftentimes, I would put Britt up against any city administrator, New York City, Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul, anywhere, that she is able to store so much information in her brain and know where to find the facts to back that up are great. I appreciate all she does, and now, especially now that she's taking on additional duties and roles as we, as the city once again goes through some transition as we move forward. And I just want to say, Britt, thank you for being here, and I appreciate the work you do.
Thank you, and I think it's worthy to note, as a city administrator, she has the sole authority moving forward to manage all the staff and the people with respect to that, puts there all things, and we all know what the job description does and what she's done, and it's reflected in the numbers of the performance evaluation overall. But, you know, unlike some of these other committees, our size are larger. There is no assistant city administrator. There is no administrative assistant that directly reports to her on a regular basis. So she relies on other staff people in which to conduct, and she takes on the burden of responsibility of managing the employees. And I think I must say that I concur that you're doing an outstanding job with respect to that. It's a very difficult position to be in. You're dealing with 7 different personalities sitting on this elected body, plus all your city staff, and plus the employees that you must manage, and utilizing on a limited basis assistance from outside entities in which to manage your employees, I think is yeoman's work in that regard, and assisting the finance director in that regard, who is not here right now, and so you're taking on those additional duties or responsibilities not only from HR but finance as well. So I think I think you're a valued employee. So thank you. Anybody else? Okay, looking for a motion. Do we need a motion to accept the performance evaluation as written or not? Brian?
Mayor, I don't think we necessarily need
Okay,
a motion
very good.
to accept it. It just, it's contractually, it's performed.
Okay, any other questions or comments regarding the other performance evaluation that's been brought before you with respect to our city administrator's performance? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda.
Next item is closed session for attorney-client privilege, and this portion of the meeting will be closed for attorney-client privilege to discuss potential litigation as from Minnesota Statute 13D05 Subdivision 3.
So that's a recommendation?
We have to, yes.
Yeah, we're looking for a motion to go into closed session for attorney-client privilege with respect to potential litigation pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.05, Subdivision 3, moved by Counselor Motley. Is there support?
Support with a break.
By Counselor Johnson. Further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Let's take a short break before we go into closed session. Thank you.